Okay, thank you for joining. My name is Oliver Lamb, and I'm the head sportsbook controller at Kambi. We're a business-to-business sports betting supplier who work alongside and with Kindred. So great to be here today to talk about the subject of sports integrity, which is very important to us. I'm here to give, I believe, a betting industry perspective on the fight against match fixing, and also looking back how it was in the past, the way it currently is, and the way maybe it could be in the future with greater technological advancements. So without further ado, let me proceed. I thought I would begin by giving ourselves a glance at Kambi and also the wider sports betting ecosystem. So Kambi is, as I said, a business-to-business sports betting supplier. We do provide the sportsbook for Kindred, offering them odds and risk management services globally, as well as a technical platform and product compliance. One of the key things that we do provide is integrity monitoring. So for Kindred, we process all of their sports bets, and part of that process is to look at each bet from not just a profitability angle, but also from an integrity angle. So now I'd like to take a look at, in terms of sports integrity, the way things were, what the landscape was like. When I personally started in the industry, I've been working in sports betting in regulated markets all of my career, which is now over 18 years. So the way things were in the past, to begin with, if we look at 15 years ago, what it was like, bookmakers to begin with had a restricted offering is one key thing to consider. So even again 15 years ago, there wasn't a great deal of in-play betting, so you couldn't bet after already a match had begun to a great extent. You were mainly betting on the bigger sporting events out there, and also the markets that were available were often just the main: who will win the match, how many goals will it be, who will win each set, say in tennis. There was quite a restricted offering compared to where it is today. Also, in terms of the way events and sports betting was operated, the way the approach to bookmaking in general, in the past, obviously, technology isn't where it is today, and all of the monitoring of bets was done to a great extent anyway in a manual manner. So it was a human eye looking out for anything suspicious, anything looked strange. There was no kind of algorithmic assistance to show you, bring things to your attention if things looked irregular or suspicious. There was very little post-event reporting. This was not the era of big data where you would have risk analysts number crunching 24/7, providing you with reports. So a lot of it was on the human being to spot anything suspicious and strange, and then also to escalate it. And I think one key thing to flag there would be that there were no really exit points for information. So if there were a suspicious event, a potentially fixed match that took place, and the bookmaker took bets on that event, there was no clear structure of where that information should go. I'm sure that, I don't know, from the past, you would tell your line manager, the trading directors, that you'd seen something strange, but there was no kind of clear route into how you would maybe tell, beyond potentially the regulator, how you would tell other bookmakers about it maybe, but also a key thing of how to tell sports governing bodies and law enforcement that there was something strange happening. So everybody was working in silence essentially, and that would go for, I would imagine, from the external perspective too, of people who do work in sports governing bodies, law enforcement, regulators. Likewise, they didn't really have the access into the betting companies to see their data either, or not in a real-time manner anyway. So in the past, it was very much a different landscape to where you could say we are today, and looking at some of the key factors that influence how companies in the sports betting sphere work with integrity. I'd say it's very much different now. One of the first things to flag is, compared to the way it was in the past, now bookmakers have an expansive offering. It's 24/7. So that's definitely something that, from an integrity angle, operators have to not just provide in terms of being a good product, but also to monitor from an integrity perspective. There's a lot more responsibility here. There's more things to look at, more things to monitor. And luckily, there is to assist their technology to back things up. So nowadays, risk management tools, are there to complement the human being. Really, an augmentation of the risk management process they provide. So, if you are a bookmaker offering an event, you will have very obvious visual clues, potentially automated alerts that will come to you when anything suspicious may happen or something that requires some kind of human review or interaction. So it's definitely not like you're looking for a needle in a haystack anymore. Often the information that's relevant will be presented to the bookmaker in real time, which definitely assists in terms of finding any irregular activity as quickly as possible. Also, there's definitely organizational awareness around the issue of sports integrity and match fixing. Each company in the regulated sphere, at the very least, has to have protocols in place of what they should do if they see suspicious activity, who they should tell, exit points for that information, and also dedicated teams and individuals who own integrity from a company perspective. So within Kambi, we have a team called Sportsbook Control who work in my part of the organization, who are 24/7, round the clock, looking at integrity, looking at the bets that we take from an integrity angle, and interacting with other actors in the integrity sphere as well. I know that will be the case for Kindred. We talk to their integrity officers on a regular basis. So yeah, definitely from a more corporate perspective, there is a lot more investment and established protocol around the management of integrity. Also, there are regulatory responsibilities in place now. So again, compared to 15, 20 years ago, where there were very few regulated markets compared to the situation nowadays, we look at it now, just even looking at the European sphere, the vast majority of countries have got a properly fully regulated sports betting market, which means that operators such as Unibet, Kindred, will have to take a local license in order to operate, and they will have requirements in place that need to fulfill. And one of those requirements always will be to make sure that they know what they're doing with integrity. The regulator needs to approve their internal procedures, internal controls around integrity, and they can't really leave any stone unturned in terms of the fight against match fixing. So it's definitely a benefit compared to where we were in the past, where these kind of regulatory connections and responsibilities weren't really in place to a great extent. And then from a final point, there is a lot more external collaboration in place. I mean, the fact that we're going to talk about it today goes to show how much the industry has reached out, and other actors have reached out to the industry on the subject of integrity. Everybody realizes that this isn't a fight that can be fought alone. Law enforcement, sports governing bodies, they certainly know that the bookmakers hold vital information in terms of processing sanctions against potential match fixers. And also the betting industry, we know from our perspective, to have the support of sports governing bodies, law enforcement, if we do see something that something will be done about it, is definitely a benefit. So there are definitely very strong networks in place currently that be growing all the time. I'm sure it'll be one of the things we talk about later on, but it's definitely a positive compared to where things were in the past. So taking a look at kind of how Kambi works with integrity on a day-to-day basis, and how we support the sports governing bodies, and in particular Kindred, Unibet, in their work against match fixing. There's a lot that goes into it. As I said, we have a 24/7 team who are always there, monitoring all the bets, looking at all activity, responding to our external integrity partners, making sure that there's always somebody available who can own and respond to any kind of integrity incident in a moment's notice. So definitely that's a real benefit, we believe, in terms of mounting a proper reaction against match fixing. To look at the kind of workload we deal with around 15 match fixing investigations each week. That's certainly not to say that there's that many events fixed on a regular basis, but enough things hit our radar that warrant an investigation that we really are quite busy with this. As I said, it's relatively rare that something does come up and is confirmed to be a case of match fixing from our perspective. But there's a lot of things that we do need to look into. And if we don't look into every single potential case, we're never going to find the real cases. So it's definitely a team that's kept busy from this perspective. One thing that we try to do for ourselves, but for our operators and for the wider market as well, is to really be responsible with the information that we have. And we look to take a self-regulating approach to our offer. So even as I said in the previous slide, that sports betting companies have vast offerings nowadays. That's not to say that we offer anything and everything under the sun. We look at our offering on a daily basis from an integrity angle. Our internal databases that we have established over the years and built up contain lots of information on potentially suspicious sporting actors and teams who, on the face of it, we'd rather not offer. And the way that comes out in offering is that each day we will block from our offering and from Kindred Unibet's offering at least 50 events on integrity grounds. One thing I'd like to go into would be kind of to give some kind of brief education in terms of what do we look for. What is the signal for us to say an event is potentially fixed? There are many and varied data points that can flag things to us. As I said in the past, it's just the human eye looking out for things. So it was harder to spot. Now we have some assistance, but there's definite triggers that we can say if they occur in a bet or on an event would be suspicious to us. One of the key initial points is that if an account, a betting account owned by an individual is brand new and has no kind of history of betting with us or no kind of internal tags, that's not obviously on its own a signifier, but looked at through the prism of match fixing, it's almost always the case that if a match has been fixed, the people who will try to bet with us have never bet with us in the past, or at least to our knowledge. I guess in the same way that criminals will use and discard mobile phone numbers and devices, similarly, they'll do this with betting accounts. They'll do this because they're trying to maximize as much as possible the fix that may have occurred. And the best way to do that is to use a new account. Once they've used an account for match fixing within Kambi's and Kindred system, as you could probably imagine, that is given a tag, it's given the severest possible treatment, and the person who owns that account, as well as hopefully being investigated to a greater extent, will certainly not be betting with us again in the future. So they'll always have to come back with a new identity and new account in order to place their bets. A second flag would be targeted betting in some way. As you can imagine, if the match fix has some information, they will zone in on the outcomes that they think are going to be fixed and make them money. So we'll see coordinated activity from various perspectives. It could be coordinated in terms of all of the bets coming from a single or linked location. That may be an IP address. It may be a physical location, which may have some links to the sporting event in some way, which would be a flag. But also targeted and coordinated betting in terms of the kinds of bets that are being placed. So to give an example of that, it would be, say, in a tennis match, if a match fixer or for someone who had that information knew that the second set of a match was going to finish 6 games to love, what the person with that information who's looking to abuse it would be not just bet on this player to win the set, they would also bet on the correct score on that set to be 6 love, for all the games to be won by the single individual, for there to be less than 7.5 games in that set. They would try to bet on all the possible markets that point towards that outcome of this person winning the set 6 games to love. So when you start seeing that kind of activity flash up on your screen and different bets come in on different markets, but with a pointed outcome, then that's definitely a flag. And then finally, there'd be external data as well. I mean, obviously, we don't work in a silo. We don't just look at what's happening in the Kambi market. We look at other bookmakers. If they are suspending betting on a certain outcome or a certain game at the same time as we're seeing strange activity or prices, the odds that you can get for the event are fluctuating heavily or crashing to an extent, then that would certainly be an indicator that something strange is happening with other bookmakers as well. So those are some of the key indicators that really would point towards suspicious activity. And certainly if they all happen together at the same time, that would raise the kind of alert status from irregular to definitely suspicious. And that would be where our protocols would kick in, and we would flag the information to our external partners and escalate internally. So looking forward to the future, I mean, I guess an obvious point would be, if we know that these are the kind of KPI indicators there for match fixing, why can't we build an algorithm to find this kind of thing and look for it even without the human eye needing to be there? So that's exactly what we have done and what we'd like to continue to do. So to give kind of an illustrated example, we've built already in some specific examples some real-time alerting in place where this kind of algorithm can look through all the bets coming, being placed on an event, and if these indicators on the previous slide are being hit, it can flag it to us even after seeing just 3 or 4 bets. Again, even the human eye, it would take a larger number, being a big red number being on the screen, to see something as being suspicious, whereas an algorithm just needs 2 or 3 bets that fit a certain profile to flag an alert. So if we saw bets being placed on an event, multiple bets being placed with just 1 bet coming through would activate the system, 2 or 3 more would keep it alert, and after say 5 bets, we could generate an alert. It could go to our sportsbook control team to investigate and pass it on to our partners as well. So right now we're kind of partway through our voyage to the future, hopefully, of having a fully automated system in terms of integrity. But ideally, this kind of system, it wouldn't just alert us in real time. It could alert our partners. It could alert sports. So yeah, I think to review a little bit of what we've seen today, I think, as I said, we had a previous reliance on the human eye, very little external collaboration. So I'm definitely glad we're not in this position anymore. But in the past, it was very much a battle that every stakeholder waged independently. The bookmakers tried to fight the match fixers on their own. The sports governing bodies tried to shut things down more on their own. And law enforcement had very little involvement whatsoever. So we've certainly moved along since then. The current approach is definitely bearing fruit. So even though we're not in the future in a fully automated paradise yet, certainly the work that is being done between sports organizations such as the IBIA and sports governing bodies, the kind of collaboration there is really starting to reap rewards. I mean, we just saw over the past few months, there was a suspicious event in darts, for example, where it went from the alert stage through to the players being banned within a matter of weeks. In the past, that investigation process could have taken months or years. So definitely the speed that we can react as a group is improved greatly. And yeah, finally, I think that looking towards the future, a more automated and interconnected future is definitely possible. We would certainly like to improve our controls and speed responses internally as much as possible, but we would love to have the IBA and sports governing bodies reap those rewards as well. So yeah, I think it looks like we're heading towards a better future in this position, in terms of we can't alone fight match fixing and potentially even diminish the amounts of cases, but we certainly can make things very difficult for match fixers, make it so it's not an attractive thing for them to do from any perspective, and really foster that collaboration between all the organizations involved. So thank you very much for listening to that today. Looking forward to further discussions now, and yes, please have a pleasant day.